Lift every voice
Lift every voice
and
and sing
sing
till earth and heaven
till earth and
ring.
heaven ring.
Ring with the harmonies
Ring with the
of
harmonies
liberty.
of liberty.
Let our rejoicing
Let our
rise
rejoicing rise
high as the listening
high as
skies.
the listening
Let it
skies. Let
resound
it resound
loud as the
loud as the
rolling sea.
rolling sea.
Hi, I'm Emily Hooper Lansana,
Hi, I'm Zara Glenda Baker.
and together we are in the
In the
Spirit.
spirit.
We are so happy to be here to celebrate Black History Month with you at the Zulu B. Wiley Public Library. We had the wonderful opportunity to be there live and in person a couple of years ago, and now we're sharing stories all the way from Chicago, Illinois. We're going to be sharing with you today some of our favorite stories and songs that celebrate the wonderful energy, challenges, and triumphs that are part of Black history. So get your friends and your family and enjoy.
What story are you going to tell, Emily?
I want to start out with telling a story that you might be able to find in your library. It comes from a book called Why the Tides Ebb and Flow by Jean Chase Bowden, and this is our adaptation of that wonderful story. A long time ago, before any of us were ever born, there was an old, stubborn, proud woman who lived all by herself in a garden. She didn't have anything to shelter herself from the weather, so she decided to go and see the great Sky Spirit, who was in charge of everything. And she said, Sky Spirit, please send me a hut, because when it rains, I am wet. When the winds blow, oh, I am cold. When the sun shines, I am so hot. Please send me a hut to shelter myself from the weather. And the Sky Spirit said, not today, maybe tomorrow. So she went back to her garden and she waited and she waited and she waited, and still the Sky Spirit did not send a hut. So she went back and she said, Sky Spirit, if you cannot give me a hut, then give me something, a stone, anything to shelter myself with. And the Sky Spirit said, take one. Well, suddenly she became very happy because she knew exactly which stone it was she wanted to take. Now, she didn't have a boat, so she made do with what she had. She got into her great big stew pot and she went sailing in the water. And as she was sailing along, all of the creatures that were swimming in the water saw where she was going. Now, I want you to imagine, what do you think was swimming in that water? All kinds of fish and sea creatures. Why, there could have been whales or goldfish or catfish or dolphins or any kind of waterfowl. And this is what they said. They said, old woman, listen to us. You're sailing too close to the hole in the sea. And she said, thank you. Then I think I'm going in the right direction. And she kept sailing along. And then all of the creatures that were swimming through the air saw where she was going. And they called out, well, wait a minute. We didn't talk about who was in the air. Who do you think might have been flying, swimming, flying through the air? Well, it could have been butterflies, cardinals, let's see, eagles, all kinds of flying wonderful things. They called out, old woman, listen to us. You're sailing too close to the hole in the sea. And she said, thank you. Then I know I'm going in the right direction. And she kept sailing along. Well, finally, she came to a place where the water was very still and very quiet. And she reached over and saw the stone that she wanted. She was just about to pick it up when the sky spirit called out, old woman, listen to me. Don't you take that rock from the hole in the sea. And she said, but you said I could have it. And she took it. And as soon as she took it, all of the water started to disappear down into the sea, and it made this sound, mtia, mtoa, tlap. So whenever you hear me say that the water is rushing down into the sea, we're going to say, mtia, mtoa, tlap. All right. So the sky spirit saw all of that water disappearing, couldn't think of what to do. He called out, little dog, I want you to swim down and put your nose in the hole in the sea. So the little dog went swimming down, but the hole was too big, he was too small. Woo! The water was too cold. The water was rushing past him, down into the sea.
Umtia, umtoa, tlap.
Wow. The old woman saw that little dog. She scooped him up and said, little dog, you will be my friend, and I will love you always. Well, the sky spirit thought, young woman, I want you to swim down and kneel in the hole in the sea. So the young woman went swimming down, but the hole was too big. She was too small. The water was too cold. The water was rushing past her, down into the sea.
Umtia, umtoa, tlap.
And so the old woman looked and said, young woman, you will be my daughter, and I will love you always. Well, the sky spirit thought, young man, I want you to swim down and sit in that hole in the sea. So the young man went swimming down, but he was too big. The hole was too small. The water was rushing past him, and it was so cold. Down into the sea the water was going.
Umtia, umtoa, tlap.
So the old woman took his hand and said, young man, you will be my son, and I will love you always. Well, the old woman looked. Now she had a family. She'd never had a family before. She'd always dreamed of having a family. She had a son, she had a daughter, they had a dog. They all got into the stew pot together. They put that rock back. The water came rising up. They went sailing back to the garden, and they built the most beautiful hut you have ever seen. But every now and then, that old woman, she wants adventure. She wants to take a trip. She remembers the special place. She gets into her stew pot. She sails out into the middle of the sea. She picks up that rock, and whenever she picks it up, the water goes rushing down into the sea.
Umtia, umtoa, tlap.
And whenever she puts the rock back, the water comes rising up. That is a story of why we have high tides and low tides. Thank you. And that story, one of the things I love the most about it is that story says that families come together in all different ways. We have all kinds of families. And for Black History Month here, we are so happy to be helping you all celebrate history and family. Thank you.
Here you see a man by the name of Henry Brown ran away from the south to the north, which he would not have done, but they stole all his rights but they'll never do the likes again. Oh, Brown laid down his shovel, don't you know? Down in the box he did go. No more bondage for Henry Box Brown. In the box by express he did go. In the box by express he did go. Then the orders they were given and the cars did roll along, roll along, roll along, roll along, down to the levee where the steamboats lay to bear the package off to the north. Oh, Brown laid down his shovel, don't you know? Down in the box he did go. No more bondage for Henry Box Brown. In the box by express he did go. In the box by express he did go. When they packed the baggage on, they turned him on his head. There poor Brown like to have died. There were passengers on board who wished to sit down, so they turned that box down on its side. Oh, Brown laid down his shovel, don't you know? Down in the box he did go. No more bondage for Henry Box Brown. In the box by express he did go. In the box by express he did go. Well, when they got to the cars, they threw the box off. Down upon his head he did fall. He heard his neck crack and he thought it was broke. But they never threw him off anymore. Oh, Brown laid down his shovel, don't you know? Down in the box he did go. No more bondage for Henry Box Brown. In the box by express he did go. In the box by express he did go. When they got to Philadelphia, they said he was in port. There Brown began to feel glad. He was taken in a wagon to his final destination and left this side up with care. Oh, Brown laid down his shovel, don't you know? Down in the box he did go. No more bondage for Henry Box Brown. In the box by express he did go. In the box by express he did go. Well, his friends gathered round and was asked if all was right. As down upon the box they did knock, Brown answered them saying, yes, all is right. And he was then set free from his pain. Oh, Brown laid down his shovel, don't you know? Down in the box he did go. No more bondage for Henry Box Brown. In the box by express he did go. In the box by express he did go. Go, Henry Box Brown, go. What a fellowship, what a joy divine.
I grew up in a house where what made my mother happy was to have a house full of people sitting around talking, laughing, eating, just joy. She says that the reason that she's that way is because her grandfather, Will Cogman, shared that kind of love with them. They were living in Birmingham, Alabama, when Will Cogman started to hear, like African Americans all across the country, that you could get better jobs and have more opportunities for your families up north. So he moved during that great migration to Cleveland, Ohio. He bought a house and then sent for the rest of the family, which included my mother. And when they got to Cleveland, he continued to work hard and plant dreams into his children. And She said one of the things that was special about being in his house is that he loved the children so much he called them his chaps. And that he said that whereas in everybody else's house, the chaps got to eat after all the adults, in his house, the chaps came first. It was one way that he poured love into them to say, "You are important." That kind of love is what she passed on to us and kept passing around the community. This folktale appealed to me because it had that same message. So I'm happy to share it with you. Story says that there were two girls who were living with their grandparents out in the country down south, and their grandparents didn't have a lot of material wealth, but they had wealthy spirits. And they knew how to make something out of what seemed like nothing. Their grandfather knew how to work that garden, and their grandmother knew how to go in that kitchen and just feed a multitude. People would always come by that house and be looking for someone to listen or offer a word or share, and their grandparents did it every time. They were very happy in childhood, but as they started to get older, they started to hear things about the city. And as they heard about the city, they just wanted to see what it was all about. So they told their grandparents they wanted to move. And their grandparents said, "Well, we want to give you some blessings as you go." Their grandmother prayed, and their grandfather said, "I want you to carry these words of wisdom with you. Remember, you must always live with an open hand and an open heart. If you remember that, you will have everything that you need." The girls said thank you. And now, as young women, they were off into the city. Open heart, open hand, open heart. The younger sister went to one side of town and the older sister went to the other. The older sister, as soon as she found a job, she started to buy things that she'd always imagined she would have. And before you know it, she had an apartment full of things, and things. Every day, when she'd go to work, go shopping, she'd come home, sit down at her little table, open her hands, and eat. But the days turned into weeks, and she started to feel lonelier and lonelier. She decided to take a trip across town and see how her baby sister was doing. And before she even got in the apartment, is the day she could hear the sounds of laughter and joy. This is the day that love has made. Let me tell you, when she walked in her sister's apartment, she couldn't believe it. There were all kinds of people just sitting around eating together, telling stories, laughing, and making music. It felt so good to be there. But she didn't understand. She called her sister to the side. She said, "How is it that we both came to the city at the same time and I'm sitting in my place all by myself and you have people everywhere?" Her younger sister said, "You must have forgotten our grandfather's words of wisdom. He said, live with an open hand and an open heart." She said, "I don't. Of course, I remember. Every day I sit down, I open my hands before I eat." Baby sister looked at her and said, "If you are opening your hands to the air, then you're expecting the air to feed you. If you want good things to come to you, you have to open your hands to the people around you." The older sister took that in, and it moved her. When she left that day, the first person she saw that looked like they needed a smile, she shared it. The next person that looked like they needed a little bit, she shared a little bit of whatever she had. And she did that day after day until before you know it, what she'd given away came back to her tenfold. She had a house full of people laughing, talking, sharing, eating, making music, telling stories, full of joy. Open hand, This next piece is called Someone. We adapted it from a performance that we heard many years ago by a group called the Children of Selma. We offer this to honor and recognize that we stand on the shoulders of the people who came before us. Someone.
Someone prayed for me. Someone sang for me. Someone marched for me. Someone suffered and died for me. Didn't even know me. Didn't even know me. Someone marched for me.
Someone marched for me
Someone
into a
marched
strange
for
land
me.
that denied their history,
Someone
denied their humanity,
marched.
denied their very right to be. Someone marched to the streets,
marched
to the
for
courts,
me.
on and on and on,
Someone
saying we
marched
are important,
for me.
saying we matter. They marched
Someone,
and they continue to march
someone
that we might have a better life. Yes, someone. They marched for me.
for me.
They didn't even know my name.
Someone sang for me.
Someone sang for me.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I
Someone
ain't gonna let nobody turn
sang.
me around, cause I woke up this morning with my
Someone
mind
sang.
stayed on freedom. Yes, someone sang these songs for me. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is
Someone
marching on. We
sang.
shall overcome. Come
Someone
by
sang.
here, come by here. Yes, someone sang these songs and so many more, and they didn't even know my name. Someone lived for me.
Yes, someone
Someone
lived for me.
lived.
And on this day,
Someone lived.
we want to speak the names of some of those librarians as we celebrate with the library. Librarians throughout history who have made a difference. Black librarians like Bertha Pleasant Williams in Alabama, who always said, where there's a will, there's a way. Librarians like Miriam Matthews in Los Angeles, who created a legacy that still continues. Librarians like the first Black librarian in Louisiana, Mary G. Mills. And also Charlemagne Hill Rollins from Chicago. And we don't want to forget storyteller librarian Tony Simmons, who's made such a difference to us. These librarians have been a gateway to keeping our history and our culture and passing it on. Yes, so many have lived, have spoken out, have been activists and teachers and fighters and dreamers and historians and lawyers and people who work behind the scenes whose story we'll never know. They lived, giving their whole lives to make a difference for us. We want to stand up as a testimony to the power of a determined, freedom-loving people. Yes, someone they lived for me, and they didn't even know my name.
know me.
Someone prayed for me in a field, in a church, in a corner, in a mosque, in a synagogue, in a church, in a closet, by the bedside. Someone prayed for me.
On their mind, took the time to pray.
Someone put their wishes and their dreams, their hopes and their prayers into the fact that what they were doing would make the world better for those who were yet to come. Their prayers will bring this next generation courage, bring this next generation hope, bring this next generation love, bring this next generation peace. We wish you freedom, hope, love, justice, and peace. Thank you.